So let's talk all about the Hexer build, the Dark build. And in my opinion, the Dark build is the most powerful in the game, but also the most complete. Because while the Sorcerer build is focused on damage and the Miracle build on support, the Dark build combines both things at the same time in balance. The Pyromancer does the same, but it's limited by the number of spell uses, which is very low. Not here though, we have many spells to attack, and we can use them throughout the entire game. So basically, this build revolves around attacking at mid-range with hexes, which are our spells, and also using them to hinder enemies that attack us. And of course, when that's not possible, or when these hexes run out, we use dark weapons, which are also very powerful in the game. You know? But just like the Pyromancer, you don't start as a hexer. There's no class that starts with hexes, so the recommended class is certainly the Sorcerer class. This is because the hexer uses intelligence and faith. So starting with high intelligence and also with attunement speeds things up a lot, but we can quickly become a hexer. This is because after defeating the Dragon Rider and talking to this girl on the way, she moves here. Then we can pay her to open the path to the Hexer Falcon, who will be our master. He is the one who will sell us dark resins, hexes, and give us the best equipment in the game as well. But to talk to him, we need 8 intelligence and 8 faith. With these attributes on the character, we finally begin our journey. And once you also have 20 combined attributes, intelligence plus faith, you can return to him and he will give you a gift. In addition to his outfit, which is very useful, he will also give us this staff here, the Sunset Staff. It is certainly the best staff in the game when it comes to hexes. So getting it, we're halfway there to making the build very powerful. We know it's strong, and we also figure out which staff to choose here, where the dark scaling of the weapon appears. In the game, we have the scaling grades E, D, C, B, A, and S, with E being the worst and S the best. So the better this letter, the better the staff will scale with dark. Thus, as we level up the intelligence and faith attributes, the hexes cast by the staff will become stronger. Until you can use it, I recommend using the Sorcerer's Staff, the same one the character starts with. You can use it for the blue sorceries too, until you get hexes. But still talking about catalysts, which are our tools for casting hexes, we must be aware that there are 2 types of hexes. Those cast by a staff, as I just mentioned, but also those cast by chimes. So having just a staff will not be enough for us to cast all hexes. We need a chime. The best chime for dark is the Katha's chime in the castle, already halfway through the game. So until we find it, I recommend using any other chime that is capable of casting hexes. It will be tricky, as none of the main ones are easy to obtain. In fact, you get Katha's chime before getting the others that are strong, but inferior to it. The priest chime in the Lost Bastille here is what I recommend. It's one of the best for miracles and will work for dark as well. And you might have found it quite annoying to carry 2 catalysts, right? But we have an alternative for that, which is the Black Witch's Staff. If we get its drop, we can choose to use it. This is because it is capable of casting miracles, but also hexes, sorceries, and staff hexes too. Except for pyromancy, it casts everything. This is very good, making it easier. We don't need to keep switching between catalysts. Of course, it's not the most powerful, or else it would be too broken, right? But for hexes, it's the 3rd strongest. So if you want to give up a little bit of damage in exchange for the practicality of using a single catalyst, go for it. I usually use it or choose just one type of hex to use. Then I use its specific catalyst. I'm not a fan of carrying 2 catalysts. No. Oh, it's the Shield of the Insolent? Yes, a shield also casts both types of hexes. But well, it's no use us having catalysts if we don't have the attributes to make them powerful. The same goes for weapons. That's why in this build, everything revolves around intelligence and faith. In the game, the 4 attributes that increase attack are strength, dexterity, intelligence, and faith. While other builds usually use only one attribute, the Hexer build focuses on both intelligence and faith. So it's necessary to level both up at the same time to become powerful. So is it worse because we have to level up more than other attributes? Not really, because with 28 total points, e.g. 14 out of 14, we'll already have plenty of damage. So we don't need to dump 50 right off the bat. like in intelligence and faith. Having 30 in each will already make our build have good power, and we can use our hexes comfortably from then on. That's why I recommend having B, and if you're lacking intelligence or faith, or maybe you have plenty but want even more, there are some items that temporarily raise intelligence and faith while equipped. The Chaos Hood and the Desert Priestess Hood increase our intelligence by 3. The Moon Hat increases intelligence by 2, the same as the Hexer's Hood, this horrible thing here. Besides that, it increases the number of souls we gain from defeating enemies by 2.5%. That is, more money, while the Insolent Helm increases faith by 2. The Hexer's Hood dropped by Falcon, as I mentioned, helps because it increases both intelligence and faith by 1. And it has another effect that I'll talk about in a moment. The Black Hood also has another effect, but its main one is to increase intelligence by 2. It also increases faith. Even better, right? But for actually increasing the attribute, the best is certainly this beauty here, the King's Crown. It raises our intelligence and faith by 3. To top off the really interesting gains, we have the Clear Bluestone Ring and the Southern Ritual Band. The first increases intelligence by 5, while the second increases faith also by 5. Although they are the ones that increase the most, I recommend them more for the beginning. This is because we can only carry 4 rings, and in this build there are much more interesting rings to use. So use them if you really need to, or use only one at a time. There are also other equipment that raise intelligence and faith, but only by 1 point, which I don't find so interesting. The Golden Fruit Bomb even increases faith by 5, while Simpleton's Spice increases intelligence by 5, but they only last 45 seconds, which I honestly find useless, especially since they are rare items to obtain. So using these items, we will increase intelligence and faith, and as a consequence, have more damage. However, there are also other items that increase our power beyond these attributes, such as the Blue Dagger. If held in the hand opposite the Catalyst, it increases the damage of spells cast by it by 5%. Just be careful, as it decreases our elemental defenses. The Dark Clutch Ring also increases the damage of our hexes, as well as dark weapons. It increases all dark damage actually, but be careful as it decreases our defenses. The Abyss Seal is only for hexes, as this ring when equipped gives us 7.5% more hex damage. A lot, right? But every time we cast a hex, it drains a little of our life. 30 points to be more exact. And finally, the Black Witch's Domino Mask, which increases the power of any type of magic by 3%, but decreases our HP by 15%. Look at that. Therefore, using these items will greatly increase our damage, but all of them harm our life in some way, whether by making us take more damage, draining HP, or even cutting it. So we must be careful when using all of this at once. If we don't level up HP, we'll be made of paper. I honestly recommend using all of them, except the Witch's Mask. 3% isn't much, and besides, we have better helmets to use in the build, right? Now we have tons of damage, huh? But it's no use having damage if we can't use the hexes. It's here. We need attunement slots. These slots here to equip them. If we only have 1 slot, for example, we can only equip 1 spell. Then all this power is useless. And the attribute responsible for increasing these slots is attunement, by leveling it up. For example, when we start as a sorcerer, we have 1 attunement slot. Then upon raising attunement to 13, we gain another slot. Then raising it to 16, a 3rd slot, and so on. Raising attunement improves several things, but the most important is this: increasing the space to use more and more spells, since some require 2 or even 3 slots at once, you see, because they are so strong. And what I recommend is having 43 attunement by the end of the journey, since we'll have 7 slots, which I think is an ideal number. But you can also increase these slots in another way, with equipment again. The Southern Ritual Band is there for that. It has a +1 and a +2 version. Each version increases the slot count by 1, so the best is +2, since it gives us 3 slots, almost half the ideal. We get it in NG+, or in the second playthrough, after defeating the boss of the Shaded Woods. But if we want, we can burn a bonfire ascetic at this bonfire here, the 3rd one. This part of the map goes into NG+, becoming more difficult, including the boss who comes back to life. However, by defeating him, we get the ring still in the first playthrough. It can be done early in the game. It's optional, but I highly recommend it. There's also the Black Witch's hat. It increases the slot count by 1, so if there's no better option, maybe it's worth using. Or to style the build, right? A cool witch's hat. Increasing attunement also improves other things. One of them is the character's agility, making them dodge better and also use items more quickly. Another good thing for this build is that by raising this attunement, we also cast our hexes faster. So with 43, we'll cast them at a very good speed, but there are still some slow ones even with 43. So having secondary items that reduce this cast time is something I highly recommend. The clear bluestone ring does this. It has a +1 and a +2 version, so with it, we'll cast them faster. There's also the Lion Mage set. It's very ugly, okay? Rest assured, today was the last day of the joke. Anyway, it's a great help. Each piece will make us cast hexes faster, as does the Black Hood. Besides increasing intelligence, as I said, it also increases our casting speed by 12%. More speed. The Chaos Hood also increases speed by 5%. It's inferior, but it gives us 3 intelligence. It's interesting, but I still prefer the other one. And attunement is still valuable for more things, since it also increases the number of times we can use a specific hex. For example, Dark Orb, a very used hex. We can, when starting a character with low attunement, use it 20 times. But with 43 attunement, we can already use it 25 times. A very useful increase. The Northern Ritual Band also does this and has a version up to +2. With it, we can use the hex many more times, but it drains our HP. Look at that cut, how absurd. I don't recommend it at all, no way. The Hexer's Hood is much better. And besides increasing intelligence and faith by 1 each, as I mentioned, it also increases the uses of our hexes by 10%. Or the Saint's Talisman. So it increases uses by 1, regardless of the spell or the amount of attunement. Very useful. It also increases our faith by 1, huh? I'll still talk in this video about the best hexes and also the best weapons. But first, let's talk about how they work. And it's basically what I said about the scaling here with Dark. The better the scaling, the more damage we'll have here, which is the Dark damage. So if you want to use weapons that become more powerful by raising our intelligence and faith, the thing to do is come here to the blacksmith in the Lost Bastille and then infuse them with Dark using a Dark Knight Stone. Doing this, look, the weapon's scaling becomes Dark, making it stronger with the build. And even if the weapon already has Dark naturally in most of them, we can also infuse it with a Dark Knight Stone, which will make their scaling even better. Even on catalysts, it's very worth infusing them with Dark as well. It's great. Now I'm going to talk about auxiliary items that can help in the build, like the Northwarder set, which increases the duration of a hex when used. That means if we use, for example, Dark Weapon, buffing the weapon with it, this effect lasts longer. Oh, also remembering that if you use the Black Witch's staff, know that it decreases this duration. It's good to know this detail. The same effect as the Northwarder set is also on the Lingering Dragoncrest ring, which has a +1 and +2 version. It increases this duration. And we have the Crown of the Iron King, which among all the helmets I've talked about so far is the one I like the most and one of the most recommended by me. Every 2 minutes, it restores 20% of our used spell casts. So as we use them, they come back thanks to the crown's effect. It's the same effect as these 3 herbs here too. The Twilight Herb, which recovers a little of the maximum casts of spells, the Crimson Water, a medium amount, and the Wilted Dusk Herb, which recovers almost all uses. There's also the Red Water and the Meat, which besides restoring our spell uses, also recover our HP. And finally, we have the Binoculars, which can be somewhat interesting. We use it, center on the target, and shoot the hex. Very good for hitting things from afar. Just be aware that hexes have a lower range than sorceries. Dark Greatsword transforms the staff into a great dark sword. It's a single attack, but with good damage. Besides launching a kind of sword-shaped wave, Scraps of Life deals area damage. It's meant to prevent enemies from approaching us or to help when several attack us in a trap. Darkstorm also does something similar, surrounding us with dark orbs. Resonant Flesh temporarily increases our HP. Maybe it's useful to combine with Unleash Magic. Life Drain Patch is just that. A patch causes damage to whoever touches it, but be careful, as it also damages us. Promised Walk of Peace makes affected users around you heavier for a while. You'll only really feel the effect on heavier enemies who will become really slow to roll. I'd say it's more functional in PvP against those who use heavy armor. And finally, the ones I think are the most powerful, Resonant Soul. It costs souls to use, but the damage is very good. Great Resonant Soul, an even better version, lots of damage. And Climax, which has absurd damage, but it consumes all the souls in our counter. I don't recommend that at all. Imagine me with all these souls here, using this spell a single time, and losing everything. Tragic, right? But this damage is certainly the highest in the game, without a doubt being able to one-shot some enemies. And now, yes, let's go to the best weapons. Of course, according to my opinion, I've already tested all the weapons in the game with all possible infusions. I even made complete guides by category. Silver Black Spear, Silver Black Sickle, Scythe of Nar Alma. I didn't used to like it much because of the sweet spot mechanic, but I came to like it a lot for experimenting. The Roaring Halberd, the most powerful halberd in the game. The Sanctum Crossbow and the Sanctum Repeating Crossbow. They scale with dark and become very good. I love one of my favorites, the Fume Sword, a very good straight sword. The Sacred Chime Hammer I also think is very good, besides also being a catalyst for hexes that use the chime. The next is the Sacred Bell Hammer, one of the best weapons in the game, surpassed by this one here, our last on the list. The Crypt Black Sword is the most powerful weapon in Dark Souls 2, and it's dark, you know? And these weapons are those that scale naturally with dark, with intelligence, and with faith. We can, with the Dark Night Stone, as I said, transform normal ones into dark. And there are many common weapons that become as or sometimes even more powerful than those I presented so far. Now I have two suggestions for you. Since, as I said, some hexes consume our souls when used, otherwise they won't have damage. So what I recommend is that we use some item that gives us more souls when we defeat enemies. To compensate for that, or it will be very difficult to level up the character if we keep spending everything. And since this build levels both intelligence and faith, and also uses catalysts that can cast sorceries and miracles, we can use other things from time to time. We don't need to restrict ourselves only to hexes. We have many options like heal, denial, among other things. You can make the most of this build, you know? And here we have a level 65 build model for the beginning of Dark Souls 2. Level 65 is considered low for the game. We can get it quickly. So here we have a path. I even talk about setting it up for beginners in this video. It's worth taking a look at it too, you know? It's for real beginners. And here would be the build I would use at level 150, more advanced and without the DLC. It would be more or less like this. Later I would raise intelligence and faith, plus a bit more life and stamina. But of course, this is just an example. You build your build the way you think is best, okay? This guide is for you to build it your way. And if you like the video, like and share to help the channel. And see you in the next video.